Okay, hi, good evening, everyone. So we are back with our BBKP session this Friday. And, for people like me who were very good in maths and had significant difficulty problems in verbal ability. So donkey years back, I used to, I just got through UBS, and when I was discussing, you know, I was taking doubts with my set of students for quant. Poonam ma'am was, clarifying a lot of verbal doubts for her students. And I used to feel at that time that UBS में जाने से पहले मेरे को पूनम जी ने क्यों नहीं पढ़ाया? Because, students used to be so happy, so, enlightened. I'll be very, very frank using this word that the scores used to go up. Obviously, I will not take away the thing that 90% of the effort is of the student. Primarily because whatever is told by the faculty, how many of you can go back and actually implement the strategies? Implement the strategies, fine tune your preparation, keep the noise out. So, however, that one thing was always there, and now the video calls, Zoom calls make it possible that two faculties can be apart. So I'm an anchor today, and Poonam ma'am is going to help us understand how do I get a 95 percentile plus. So it also happens that students get 95 percentile plus in one particular attempt to CAT, and another attempt to CAT, they do not get even a 85 or a 90 percentile. So what goes wrong? Has the aptitude in English verbal decreased? We like to understand. So, Poonam ma'am, most welcome. And over to you. As I always say, students want to hear you. So I keep my introduction very short so that before they throw me out, I get the guest speaking. Over to you. I'll keep on asking the questions. I'll request students to put their questions on the YouTube channel, YouTube video which you are watching. I'll keep asking all the questions, and that's how we'll go about it. Over to you.
Sure.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was nice interacting with you after decades, Yeah. So I still remember how you used to be passionate about quant, and we used to, divert students ki yaar thoda sa English pad lo. So the question which you just asked, ki over the years is English becoming difficult, or why is the students not performing well in English? I think because they're very attracted or hypnotized by people like you who mesmerize them into, just quant kar lo. But let me tell you, you need double the efforts for verbal. And at least at this stage, if you haven't started, you should start. So the first tip I would like to give is focus double the amount of your energies or preparation time to verbal along with content DI. Yeah, that's very important. That's the first step for the day. Over to you.
Okay, so so we have two sets of students. One who have who've been preparing for a very long time, and the others who are just starting in a way that we cannot lose, even if it's a very small percentage of students who are just starting. We have to take them along and help them improve their scores. What do you think if someone's not started? Can we just give 5 minutes to how should they start preparing now?
Okay.
But
So answering,
also along with it, please help us understand what is asked in the paper, CAT paper, and specifically CAT paper. I should not say only CAT paper, specifically CAT paper. What are the focus areas, and what are quick fixes? Yeah.
sure. So rightly pointed out, Deepak. First thing is we will start with for everyone, those who are beginners or those who are even, preparing from a long time. I will address this question for both the set of students, and accordingly, the strategy I will slightly customize and tell you. So let's begin for both the set of students. Please, if you are there online with me together, just write down a model called as GROW model, GROW, because together I want you to grow with us. Okay. The first thing is identify your goal. What do you want? So let's say you're scoring 70, how much percentile you want? If you're getting 95, usko kitna karna hai, and how much time do you have to do that? Are you preparing for CAT this year? Are you preparing for CAT the next year? That also is very, very important. So first identify your goal. What is my goal? And from here to there, where I want to go. Okay. So in short, in CAT, if we are looking at 90 percentile and more in the verbal percentage, so we need to have an understanding of the total number of questions we need to do. Okay. So if we want a score of 90 plus, we need to have accurate around 11 to 12 questions. And similarly, if we want 95 percentile plus, we need to have a somewhere ballpark figure around 13 to 15 correct questions. Okay. So this, we know this is my goal, that I want to achieve 13 correct questions. That's my goal. That's my first step. Okay. So I've identified that. Now, after I've identified my goal that I want to achieve here, whatever 95, 98, 99. So if you want 98, 95 plus, you need to have, I repeat again, you need to attempt 13 to 15 correct questions. Accuracy is more important. Okay. But out of how many? Now I'll tell you the pattern and how do we go about it. So we have set a goal. Now comes what comes in the verbal part in the CAT exam. Okay. In CAT exam, the components of the verbal part are one, reading comprehension, which occupies major set of your verbal section, right? So we have seen in last few years, you are given 4 RCs, which have 4 questions. So generally out of 24, 16 questions are from RC. That's component number one. Then you may have 3 questions on para summary. Let's summarize the paragraph. 3 questions. Options will be given to you. Okay. Then you may have questions on para jumbles. We also call it as sentence rearrangement. Now, sentence rearrangement, generally from last few years, we are seeing that options are not given. You have to type in the answers for these questions. Options are not given. You have to type in the options, and they are called theta questions. These theta questions do not have negative marking. Note that they do not have negative marking. And the fourth area could either be find out an odd sentence, or last year they changed the pattern and they gave sentence placement. Okay. Now, what is odd sentence? Let me cover what is odd sentence. A paragraph was given of 4 sentences, which they were jumbled, and one sentence was not in line or not in in congruence with the other sentences. So you have to pick up the sentence which is not in congruence, that is misfit or odd sentence out. Last year, instead of misfit, they gave an element called a sentence placement, where one sentence was removed from the paragraph. It was given separately. The paragraph was given, and you were asked what is the right position, right placement of this sentence. Whether it should come in the beginning, it should come in after second sentence, it should come in the end. Where should it come? But both these areas, be it odd sentence out or sentence placement, require similar rules or a similar understanding like sentence rearrangement or parajumbles. So if you're prepared for parajumbles, you can easily solve these areas well. And if you're prepared for RC, you can easily work on rearrangement. So I summarize the topics that come in CAT exam are one, RC, para summary, misfit, or odd sentence out, or sentence placement. Be prepared if there is any one or two, there could be a surprise element, because we have seen in the past CAT is known for giving some surprises. Okay, so this is the, now I know that these are the areas, these are the questions asked. I then go back to my goal. मेरा गोल क्या है, मुझे कितने क्वेश्चंस अटेम्प्ट करने हैं कट ऑफ लाने के लिए और अच्छा स्कोर लाने के लिए. तो हमने डिसाइड किया 95 प्लस चाहिए, तो मुझे ये 24 क्वेश्चन में से मुझे 8 या 9 करेक्ट चाहिए. 8 9 अगर ओके स्कोर है, अच्छा स्कोर है, मुझे 13 to 15 करेक्ट चाहिए. 13 to 15 करेक्ट चाहिए, दैट मीन्स मुझे मार्जिन रखना है incorrect questions. Okay, so I can keep a margin of +2 questions over there. Okay, and the time devoted for verbal section in the past has been 40 minutes. So in 40 minutes, I think doing 12 to 13 questions, 12 to 13 correct questions is quite doable, is doable. So that's my first step, which we decided on the goal and the pattern. Yeah. Moving on. Yeah, go ahead, Deepak.
My whole thing is, so, with students who just started preparing or did not have a clarity, how should we now prepare for each of these?
Yes.
each of
Yes.
these?
Yeah. So we completed the goal part of it. We understood
Okay.
the context. Now I move on to identifying the obstacles that you're facing,
Okay.
or we identify the reality check. We do a reality check. Unless you
Okay.
diagnose what is your cause of the problem or what is the challenge that you're facing, you won't know what steps you need to take, right? So this step is very, 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 very crucial. I am like harping on it. Reality check. Now, what is reality check? Is identifying what are your strong areas and what are your weak areas. In other words, doing your own SWOT. Okay. Now, there is a procedure of how to do it. Whether you are a beginner or you are an expert, you know your goal, but you need to know कि मेरा score क्यों नहीं आ रहा है. Or if I'm a beginner, मुझे problem कहाँ आ रही है, मेरा strength कहाँ है. So we need to do that. So I will give you few steps. How do you do a reality check? How do you find out what are my strong and weak areas? Okay. So foremost thing that you need to do is go solve at least um, 5 or 6 sectional test of verbal. Step number one, 5 or 6 sectional test of verbal, or you can take last year's 2 papers of verbal one. When you're doing that under time conditions in a simulated environment, so it should not be paper based, it should be on screen because your actual paper is going to be on screen. And why I'm saying simulated condition and why I'm putting that time factor into mind, because English requires concentration and focus. So, first thing, start with mock paper, 4 or 5 mock papers under time condition, under simulated factors. After you are done with the test, after you're done with the test, do your analysis. Now, I'll quickly give you tips on doing analysis. Analysis is very, very, very important for English and maths and DI. Okay. So, first thing, write out how many questions you attempted. Out of 24, how many you attempted? Out of attempted, how many were correct? How many were incorrect? And how many questions did you leave? So we have to diagnose the treatment for each of this. So when you found out, okay, out of 24, I attempted 18 questions. So out of 18, how many were correct? कितने correct गए हैं? So out of 18, if only 2 are correct or if only 4 are correct, it's not a right balance, right? So find out why the other questions were incorrect. Okay, so whether the time and accuracy is something that you need to balance, because you do not need more negatives, you need positive score. Okay, so we identified how many questions I attempted. After attempted, how many were correct and how many were incorrect. Now, in how many were incorrect, you go and identify, break the paper in 2 parts. पार्ट वन आरसी, आरसी में कितने अटेम्प्टेड थे, आरसी में कितने करेक्ट थे, आरसी में कितने इनकरेक्ट थे. Detail analysis. After RC, take the verbal ability part. Verbal ability is rearrangement, summary, misfit. उसमें मैंने कितने attempt किए, कितने correct थे, कितने incorrect थे. Right? Do that for 5 papers. After doing that, find out मेरा strong area, मेरे maximum correct कहाँ जा रहे हैं, मेरे maximum incorrect कहाँ जा रहे हैं. So you will get an idea where do I stand. मेरा RC अच्छा है या मेरा verbal ability अच्छा है. अगर मेरा RC अच्छा है तो मेरा किस type का RC अच्छा है. Whether I'm good with business, I'm good with psychology, what type of passage I'm good at. So first step is identifying that. And then you write down in your notebook, okay, I'm comfortable doing business related RC, or I'm comfortable solving main idea questions. I'm comfortable doing para jumbles. I'm not comfortable in misfit. You write it down over here. Once that is in place, now you've done your reality check. Okay, then you take your what are the options available for me now. Now, how do I work from here? Okay, so Deepak, I would request you to emphasize again the importance of test analysis to know your SWOT.
No, 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 that's okay. That's I would not talk about quant at all, because even I'm getting in like how to improve in verbal. And but can it be like you said that take 4, 5 sectional tests?
Yes.
Would it be okay? Because it could just be that they have a different level of difficulty and then hence misrepresent on what I'm good at and what I'm bad at.
So in that case, if you take off one institute or something, generally the average level will be same, and hence I'm saying not take 1 or 2. If you take 5, you would get to know your average score. right?
Hmm.
Or what you can do is you can take previous year's CAT papers so that the level of difficulty is same, and then you can identify your strong and weak areas, right? Again, as I said, break your strong and weak areas into RC and verbal ability.
Hmm.
Now, after we have done this reality check, after test analysis, then we move on to the next step. Now, what are the options? How do I proceed from here? Right now, my goal is, now I'm talking to how to improve your score, shortcut methods, score कैसे improve करना है, right? I need, मुझे पता है कि मुझे 13 क्वेश्चंस करेक्ट चाहिए, तो सबसे पहले 13 क्वेश्चंस करेक्ट चाहिए, तो मेरा इन दिस लास्ट 5 मॉक्स आई हैव सीन मेरा स्ट्रॉन्ग एरिया क्या जा रहा है. अगर रीअरेंजमेंट जा रहा है, आई स्टार्ट विद वर्बल एबिलिटी, रीअरेंजमेंट से आई स्टार्ट. 2 क्वेश्चंस मैंने उसके कर लिए, समरी मेरा करेक्ट जा रहा है, आई डू समरी के करेक्ट जाएंगे. सो फर्स्ट 15-20 minutes ऑफ योर टेस्ट, टेक अप दैट एरिया विच यू आर स्ट्रॉन्ग एट, and then 15-20 minutes you move to RC. Or if you think RC is you're very good with RC, first 20 minutes do 2 RCs. 2 RCs में से आप 6 questions अपने पक्के कर लो, एटलीस्ट 5-6 पक्के कर लो, बाकी हमारे पास रह गए 4-5 क्वेश्चन, 4-5 यहाँ वहां से निकल जाएंगे. So that's on the D day, that's the strategy that you should adopt. Okay. Now coming on to it's very, very important to identify what kind of RC we get, what kind of VA questions we get. Understanding the whole pattern is not important, but a micro analysis of each RC, each question type asked in it is equally important. Right? So those who are preparing now, after we have identified our goal, I've done a reality check, I've identified my strong and weakness. Now I go back. I know, okay, let's take an example. My RCs, I'm okay with RC, 50-50% I'm okay. Then write down 5 years, what type of RCs have been asked? What are the domains asked? So get yourself familiarized with various domains of RC. So Hitbullseye will give you complete information on what are the type of RCs asked. There you could be asked RC on philosophy, psychology, technology, etc., etc. There will be few areas you will be comfortable, few areas you are not comfortable. So ask yourself, this is my strong area, this is not my strong area. So leave it for the time being, right? But then, yeah, slowly you will gradually work on that area. And even in that particular RC or in that particular domain, if you may be comfortable with any domain, the problem could be maybe I'm able to get the RC, I'm not able to solve the question. So identify कौन से type के question में मुझे problem आ रहा है. Whether it is primary purpose, main idea, inference, किस level के question में मुझे problem आ रहा है. So question type में भी identify करो मेरे strong questions कौन से हैं, मेरे weak questions कौन से हैं. Factual questions सही जा रहे हैं या inference based सही जा रहे हैं. तो exam में अगर आपको factual सही जा रहे हैं, exam में 1-2 questions तो मिल ही जाएंगे जहां पे आप वो 2 number और बना सकते हो. So identify the domain of your RC, identify the question types which are right or which are wrong, and then keep practicing those kind of questions more. Right? Now, same way coming to verbal ability. Verbal ability, as I said, will take is less time consuming. Right? Because it is like in RC, you have to read the whole passage, then you have to read the questions, you have to read the options. It probably takes more time. But verbal ability summary, एक paragraph पढ़ लिया, उसके 4 options देख लिए, फटाफट हो जाता है. Rearrangement में 4 sentences पढ़ने हैं, उनको हमें सिर्फ arrange करना है. So it is less time consuming. But I will suggest you do VA only if you think that is your strength and you can do it. So practice for that is equally important. So same way, when you are practicing verbal ability questions, right, do not discount the importance of it, because we can easily, if you're good with it, we can pick up 4-5 from your save our time, then go to RC. That's one thing we can do. So when you're starting doing parajumbles, when you're practicing parajumbles for beginners or for advanced students who have already enrolled or preparing from a long time, okay, in a day do at least 10 to 12 rearrangement or misfit questions. At least 10. Just with 2 you won't get an idea कि मुझे ये आएगा या नहीं आएगा. When you do 10 questions, by looking at it, और जो रूल्स हम क्लास में सिखाते हैं वो रूल्स देख के आपको पता चल जाएगा कि यहाँ पे रूल अप्लाई हो रहा है कि नहीं हो रहा है. सो देन यू विल नो कौन सा क्वेश्चन करना है, कौन सा क्वेश्चन नहीं करना है. और ये सिर्फ प्रैक्टिस 1-2 क्वेश्चन करोगे वहां से नहीं पता चलेगा, कम से कम अगर आप 100 क्वेश्चन करते हो practice in last 1 month, not even if you do 75 questions, which is doable, you'll get an idea. So that again is a very, very important tip, right? So
Right.
same goes with RC. After you practice around 100 RCs, you will get an idea. When in the exam, when you get an RC, do not be in a rush to start from RC number 1, right? Spend time, spend 3-4 minutes and skimming the RC. Skimming is just like browsing, maybe going through the first paragraph of it, or having a look at it, then deciding, okay, this is some area I'm familiar with. If possible, have a look at the question asked. If you think, yes, I can do that, that should be your first RC. And don't be tempted that the way you first in the exam, if you get first RC, I should be tempted to do it. No, don't do it that way, because you may tend to get more inaccurate answers. Okay. So these are few things on how, at least the model of the entire thing was: one, give your mocks, know your strength and weakness. After that, then practice at least 75 to 100 questions to grab on that concept, and then you'll be in a position to decide which I should do and which I should not do in the exam. Yeah.
So once a person has
Next.
identified, yeah, once a person as a student has identified what should be done, what should not be done, but how does one work on weaknesses? Maybe that's what you
Yeah.
wanted to answer through, the grow model. Yes.
Yes. Again, identify my weakness. So see, weakness means हमें weakness पे खेलना है कि नहीं खेलना है. That will completely depend मेरा goal क्या है. मुझे पता है, if I have a look at paper, मुझे पता है मेरे 6 questions तो यहाँ से निकल गए, मेरे पास 6 बच गए. अब ये 6 questions मुझे कहाँ से करने हैं? So let's say अगर कुछ भी नहीं है and I need to now fall back on my weak areas. So then weak areas को अभी we still have time. तो एकदम कंप्लीटली इग्नोर मत करो वीक एरियाज को. वीक एरियाज के ऊपर काम करना शुरू करो. सो लेट्स आइडेंटिफाई हर वीक एरिया पे कैसे काम करेंगे. फर्स्ट, जब आपने रियलिटी चेक किया है, यू विल गेट एन आइडिया कि मेरी वीक एरिया क्या है. आरसी है वीक एरिया, किस टाइप का आरसी वीक एरिया है. स्टार्ट रीडिंग आर्टिकल्स ऑन दैट, right? And in that article, when you are reading RC, most of the time students face a problem. We don't understand what we are reading, or after finishing reading, we don't know what the author is talking, because that's an incorrect way of reading, especially for beginners. Okay. So what the strategy that has worked for me and few of my and a lot of my other students, which I still adopt, is when I take up an RC, right? For every paragraph, I write in shorthand what does that paragraph is talking about. Let's assume a hypothetical situation. There's an article written on inflation. So let's see, after reading the first paragraph, what is the author talking about inflation? Maybe he's defining inflation. So you just write down 1 or 2 words, scribble it, definition. Then next paragraph, maybe he'll talk about causes. He'll write causes. He'll talk about inflation in India versus other countries. So he's doing comparison. So when you have these bullet points written against each paragraph, your comprehension will improve. And for that, you have to start practicing now. Don't depend in the last moment. Start practicing from now. Trust me, if you do this process for 15 days, your comprehension will improve. That's the tip for how to solve an RC. So, first, when you get an RC, first thing is in the exam, you should know how to select the right passage, right? Then, after you've got the passage, skim the passage, see if you have got it right. If possible, have a look at the questions. Then, when you start reading for each paragraph, write down the keywords. Okay, have a recap of the flow. What is the author talking about? Then you go and take the questions. And question types again, if you're comfortable, do that question. Another very important tip that has worked for me personally is uh, when I look at the options, I get confused. And therefore, there's always a tie between two options are very close. So my strong suggestion would be, and that's helped many students, and it has helped me too, is don't look at the options first. Read the question, try to visualize the answer, what kind of answer it would be. अगर मेन आइडिया का क्वेश्चन है, आप सोचो कि मेन आइडिया में वो क्या क्या मेन आइडिया है पैसेज की, अपना एक आंसर मेंटली बनाने की कोशिश करो, और फिर आप ऑप्शन में देखो कि वो क्राइटेरिया फिट हो रही है कि नहीं हो रही है. So anticipating an answer is another one way where you can go away with the two narrow choices, or when you don't get lost in the options. So that's
So
one thing that you can work on. Tips.
you're
There's
right,
so much
because
to talk on RC that I can't, just summarize in a few minutes that we have. Yeah.
now you're right, because once we see the options, that could actually work as a strategy, because once we see the option, we're trying to fit in that option as the answer. And then that
Yes.
logic of fitting it there कि ये ठीक हो सकता है, ये भी ठीक हो सकता है, starts, and you find reasons for fitting. That's where you start going wrong. First, try to visualize the answer,
Absolutely.
could work for some of the students, definitely, right? But what about students who are already, why would a student be getting a 90 and not a 95? Well, some of the students would be stuck at a 90 percentile for a very long time, not, 85 to 90 kind of a bracket. And why not 95? Where could they be going wrong? Because you have that 15, 20 years of
One,
experience. Tell us from experience.
yeah. One, to be very honest, they are partial towards maths. Sorry to say that, but that's the fact. Okay?
Okay. Okay.
They spend more time doing maths. उनको लगता है इंग्लिश पढ़ ली हो जाएगी, ऐसे नहीं होता है. And we have seen in our careers, and we have seen students keep do, they get very emotional when they do quant and maths, right? So they spend less amount of time in preparing for verbal. Even if they know verbal, even if they're good with reading, they don't prepare it strategically. Second, what is missing is strategy is missing. Some of the students I've seen do a lot of hard work. They read 4 passages, 5 passages, they read the Hindu, the Times, they're all over the place. But the strategy is missing. राइट स्ट्रैटेजी मींस एज वी जस्ट डिस्कस कि कितने क्वेश्चन चाहिए, उसमें से मुझे कौन से करने चाहिए, कौन से नहीं करने चाहिए. दे कीप, पहला क्वेश्चन आया स्टार्ट कर दिया करना ब्लाइंडली, एंड पता ही नहीं चलता है कितने अटेम्प्ट्स हुए, वो मेरा क्वेश्चन एक्यूरेट था कि नहीं था, एंड इन दैट टाइम यू रियलाइज अरे 30 मिनट्स तो निकल गए 40 मिनट्स में से. सो दैट इज अनदर थर्ड थिंग विच द एरर विच दे डोंट सॉल्व मॉक टेस्ट. Even if they do mock tests, some are sincere, they don't do the analysis of it, detailed analysis. So analysis like how many I attempted, which were right, which were wrong, was, and then which were incorrect. Ask yourself this question: was my selection of questions correct? Was time management a problem? Did I overspend time on this question? Was it doable? Right? What am I lacking? Am I lacking the understanding of the rules? Am I lacking subject knowledge? So identifying what went wrong and why it went wrong will come only through analysis of the paper. So this is something, honestly, they don't do it. However, they say we do it. Very few I've seen follow this.
Could be, yes, yes, very right. That that the thing is missing, that they're overly focused on quant, not analyzing the paper, or the inherent, for people like me, the inherent for quant, or mixing the fact that since quant has more concepts, that's what people like me feel, that quant has more concepts, should be given more time, but then not at the cost of doing the verbal section and scoring well,
Absolutely.
because
Yeah. And
that's
students who get 90 and are not 95, as I said, strategy is a problem for them.
okay. Okay.
Strategy.
Right. So what about, how to push beyond 95? What do you feel? How to push beyond 95? Is it possible?
Absolutely. It's very, very possible. So again, diagnosing why I'm not getting 95. It goes back to, reality check.
That
गोल
one
पता है
question here
95
or
के
there
ऊपर
is
नहीं
what
आ
you,
रहा है.
sorry?
हाँ, reality check is very, very important. Reality check मतलब how much time I'm spending. Am I spending the right time in preparation? Is my strategy correct? Selection of questions right, wrong? Or do I know what is going wrong? मेरा rearrangement का question गलत जा रहा है तो क्यों गलत जा रहा है? Do I know the concept? मैंने उस topic के ऊपर कितने questions solve किए हैं? They just do 2 questions. दो से कुछ नहीं होगा, कम से कम आप 7500 सॉल्व करो, एंड देन वील सी कि क्यों नहीं जा रहा है स्कोर.
Right,
सेम वे
very.
आरसी में भी आरसी प्रैक्टिस करो. जनरल रीडिंग इज वन थिंग. एट दिस स्टेज आई वुडंट सजेस्ट यू ऑल टू स्टार्ट रीडिंग novels and all that. That doesn't work. That has never worked for me, right? What works for me is solve last year's papers, all right, solve mock papers, solve sectional papers, and uh, the type of question, which type of question is going wrong. Also, one thing is it because of my careless mistake? So sometimes careless mistake in English, it happens in RC many times. The question is which of the following are true except. And
Hmm.
because of the pressure of time, we don't tend to read the word except, and it goes wrong. Which
Yes.
of the following cannot be inferred? So reading the in misreading the directions also could be one of the reason why you got the question incorrect.
Hmm. Hmm.
Okay. So after analysis, you will identify mera potential itna tha, but why did I reach here? What was missing? What went wrong? Was time man again I'm repeating, was time management my problem? Understanding the concept was the problem? My selection of questions was incorrect? My strategy to identify four from your three from RC, or seven from RC and three from your, was that correct, incorrect? You have to keep looking at it. And mocks, you may get a variable result in mocks sometimes. Okay. But you will identify your pattern after you are consistent in analyzing your score.
Right, right, right. To summarize, because we know that we have to summarize this end this session early. To summarize, what do you think would be the takeaways from this session, and how should students
Yeah,
now
yeah.
improve from here?
Right. So completing the grow model where we did goal, reality, options, what options we have, right? Now workable action plan. That's very important. Workable action plans is one, mock test simulated environment, which you need to do. For beginners, I will suggest that at least 2 to 3 hours focus on RC. 2 to 3 hours focus on RC, identify your strength and your weakness. For those who have already into the habit of doing RC 2 hours, right? Start doing sectional tests for them. By next month, you all should have done at least 75 to 100 RCs. You must have solved. You must have solved at least 75 to 100 rearrangement and misfit questions, so that by looking at it, you will know should I go for it or I should not go for it. So, time uh, first thing that I would say workable plan is time management. Devote 2 to 3 hours for this, especially for beginners, right? Second, identify your strength, whether you want to spend more time in RC or verbal ability. For each area, either of this area, at least 75 to 100 questions in a month time, which is doable, right? Third, taking the sectional test. After sectional test, taking the full length mock test is equally important.
Hmm.
So these are the four things.
And what? How should now just last thing? How should one prepare September, October, November, the final day? So, what should be the intensity of preparation? What's your take
And
on it?
yeah, so if we start right now with 2 to 3 hours, I think it's easily achievable. Again, we follow the 80-20 principle. 80-20 principle, 80% strategy, 20% is practice, application of the strategy. ठीक है? And it should
Okay.
not be reverse. Only hard work है, but strategy नहीं है. This happened to me in the beginning of when I was a student and I was preparing. The whole day I used to keep solving RCs. In the exam, I used to increase my number of attempts. I used to get negatives more because my strategy was not in place. So once you sit with a mentor, so mentor is equally important to all of you. Yeah. A mentor will keep you in discipline, will keep a check on you, and will probably help you customize your strategy. So even players like Sachin Tendulkar have coaches. So I strongly believe in that concept. It's not that I'm advocating any institute or anybody. As a personal advice, having a coach or a mentor keeps you in check with your preparation.
What about the online material which is available on the Hitbullseye website? How should it be used?
Uh, right. So first, as I said, 5 mocks you can give, identify your strength and weakness, and then 2 hours every day when you're practicing. Start with reading, start with solving at least 10-15 questions of verbal ability, and then at least 3 RCs every day. So there's a lot of material available for beginners. Beginners, please start with easy material. All right, then you step ahead. Okay, there would be days when you will be completely demotivated. मेरी accuracy नहीं आ रही है, मेरी accuracy नहीं आ रही है, which will happen. Then go check with your mentor, check with your coach. आप आरसी पढ़ कैसे रहे हो? आप verbal ability रीअरेंजमेंट या मिसफिट का रूल अप्लाई कर पा रहे हो कि नहीं कर पा रहे हो.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
that's equally important.
Anything you feel we are missing on?
uh Positive attitude towards the verbal section. And don't get stressed, please. The more stressed you are, the more you tend to commit errors in the verbal section. क्वांट में क्या है, कैलकुलेशन करा, आंसर ऑप्शन में दिख जाता है, वेरीफाई कर सकते हो. यहाँ पे ऐसे कुछ नहीं होता है. सो द मोर you go with a relaxed mindset. Important. Second thing is, when you're practicing RCs at home or when you're practicing verbal ability, please do when you're mentally not fatigued, when you're mentally afresh, right? Your accuracy and your comprehension will improve. Quant you can do, even when you are watching TV or when you are, in a lazy mode, tired, you can do it. But no fatigue when you are doing RCs. That's equal. That's important when you're preparing.
Yes, Mona, I really like the fact that you said that what is the aim? The goal should be very clear on how many questions am I wanting to attempt. And mistakes would happen only when I'm trying to overstretch. And as you said, you used to solve RCs through the day, and the negatives used to be more. So I feel the negatives come when one person's overstretching and not understanding what is an optimal score, which you can actually get to know by taking mock cats, analyzing them, and saying that, hang on, this is what I'm going to aim for. This is what I'm going to do. These many number of questions what I need to solve to get a particular percentile. So thank you. Thank you so much for the session today. We had a quick session today, primarily because of the technical errors and paucity of time. But nevertheless, a very helpful session. I'm sure students who've not been able to see it today will see it in the future and try to take clues from how to get a better score. Thank you so much, Poonam ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.